My name is Margaret, and I'm 58 years old. I used to think being a good mother meant giving everything to your children. I was wrong. But I only learned that lesson on the worst day of my life, standing alone in a cold courtroom while my own daughter tried to take everything from me. Let me tell you about the moment that changed everything. The courtroom was silent except for the sound of the judge's pen scratching against paper. I stood there in my best dress, the blue one I'd bought on sale 3 years ago, with my hands shaking so badly I had to hold them together. On the other side of the room sat my daughter, Victoria. She was 32 years old, wearing an expensive black suit that I knew cost more than my monthly bills. Her lawyer sat beside her, a tall man with cold eyes who kept whispering in her ear. Victoria wouldn't look at me. She just stared straight ahead, her jaw tight and her lips pressed into a thin line. The judge looked up from his papers. "Mrs. Margaret Chen, I see you're representing yourself today. Is that correct?" "Yes, Your Honor," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Speak up, please," he said, not unkindly. "Yes, Your Honor," I repeated, louder this time. Victoria's lawyer stood up, smooth as butter. "Your Honor, my client is seeking full ownership of the property at 42 Maple Street, which has been her childhood home. We believe Mrs. Chen has mismanaged the property and that it rightfully belongs to Miss Victoria Chen, as discussed in previous family agreements." My heart dropped into my stomach. That house wasn't just a house. It was everything. It was where Victoria had learned to walk, where I'd sung her to sleep every night, where her father and I had built our life together before he died. It was the only thing I had left. "Your Honor," I said, my voice shaking, "that house is mine. I've lived there for 35 years. I raised my daughter there. There was never any agreement to give it to her." Victoria's face dropped, just for a second, when she heard the strength in my voice. She'd expected me to crumble, to give up without a fight. But I saw something else in her eyes, too. Surprise. And maybe, just maybe, a tiny flash of fear. The judge looked between us. "This is a family matter that seems quite complicated. Mrs. Chen, do you have any documentation to support your claim?" I opened my old purse and pulled out a folder. My hands were still shaking, but I was determined. "I have the deed to the house, Your Honor. It's in my name. I also have bank statements showing I've paid every single bill for that house for 35 years. Victoria's lawyer frowned. He whispered something to Victoria, and her face went pale. But how did I get here? How did the sweet little girl who used to make me breakfast in bed on Mother's Day turn into this stranger who wanted to take my home? To understand that, I need to take you back to where it all started. It began 6 months earlier, on a sunny Tuesday morning in April. I was in my garden, planting tomatoes. I loved my garden. It was small, just a patch behind my house, but it was mine. Every spring I planted vegetables, and every summer I'd harvest them and make sauces and soups. It made me feel useful, like I was still doing something that mattered. My phone rang, and when I saw Victoria's name on the screen, my heart leaped with joy. She didn't call very often anymore. She was busy with her life in the city, working at some big company doing something with computers that I never quite understood. "Hello, sweetheart," I answered, pulling off my gardening gloves. "Hi, Mom," she said. Her voice sounded strange, tight. "I need to talk to you about something important." "Of course, dear. Is everything okay? Are you sick?" "No, I'm fine. It's about the house." I stood up, brushing dirt from my knees. "What about the house?" "Mom, I've been thinking. You're getting older, and that house is too big for you. It must be so much work to maintain. What if something happens to you? What if you fall down the stairs or can't take care of the yard anymore?" My stomach twisted. "Victoria, I'm 58, not 90. I'm perfectly healthy." "I know, Mom, but I worry about you. I was thinking, what if you signed the house over to me? That way, if anything happens, everything would already be taken care of. No legal problems, no stress. I could help you manage everything." I felt like someone had punched me in the chest. "Sign the house over to you." "It makes sense, Mom. Think about it. The house would stay in the family. You could still live there, of course. Nothing would change. It would just be a legal thing for protection." "But Victoria, this is my home. Your father and I." Dad's been dead for 10 years, Mom. Her voice turned sharp. You need to think about the future, not the past. Tears stung my eyes. How could she talk about her father like that? I need to think about this, I said quietly. Don't take too long, she said. I'm trying to help you. I'll call you next week. She hung up before I could say anything else. I stood there in my garden, phone in hand, feeling like the ground had shifted under my feet. Why would Victoria want me to sign over my house? She had a good job. She had her own apartment in the city. Why did she need my house? That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Victoria as a little girl. She'd been such a sweet child, always smiling, always helping. When she was 7, she'd saved up her allowance for 3 months to buy me a coffee mug that said "World's Best Mom." I still had that mug. I used it every morning. What had changed? The next day, I called my friend Diane. Diane had been my neighbor for 20 years, and she was the closest thing I had to a sister. She wants you to what? Diane practically shouted into the phone. She says it's for my protection, I explained, in case something happens to me. Margaret, honey, that doesn't make any sense. If something happens to you, the house would go to her anyway. You're her only parent. She's your only child. She'd inherit it automatically. I hadn't thought of that. Then why would she want me to sign it over now? Diane was quiet for a moment. I don't know, but I don't like it. Promise me you won't sign anything without talking to a lawyer. I can't afford a lawyer, Diane. Then don't sign anything at all. That house is yours. You worked for it. You earned it. Don't let anyone take it from you, not even your own daughter. But it was my daughter, my Victoria. Surely she wouldn't try to hurt me. Surely she was just worried about me, like she said. I was wrong. The calls kept coming. Every few days, Victoria would phone. At first, she was sweet about it. Mom, have you thought about what I said? About the house? I'm still thinking, dear. Don't think too long. These things are better done sooner rather than later. Then the calls got more frequent and less sweet. Mom, why are you being so stubborn about this? I'm trying to help you. Victoria, I just don't understand why this is so urgent. Because you're not getting any younger. What if you get sick? What if you can't pay the bills? Do you want to lose the house to the bank? Is that what you want? I've never missed a payment in 35 years, I said, my voice shaking. There's always a first time. Just sign the papers, Mom. I'll come by this weekend with them. What papers? The transfer papers. I had a lawyer draw them up. It's all very simple. You just sign and everything is taken care of. She'd already had papers drawn up, without even waiting for me to agree. That's when I started to understand. This wasn't about protecting me. This was about something else entirely. On Saturday, Victoria arrived at my house. She'd brought her boyfriend, Marcus. I'd met Marcus a few times before. He was 35, tall and handsome, and he worked in real estate. He always wore expensive suits and had a way of looking at things, my furniture, my garden, my house, like he was calculating their value. Hi, Mom, Victoria said, giving me a quick hug. She smelled like expensive perfume. You remember Marcus? Of course. Hello, Marcus. He nodded at me but didn't smile. Margaret. They came inside, and Victoria pulled out a folder from her large designer bag. I brought the papers. Let's sit down and go through them. We sat at my kitchen table, the same table where Victoria had done her homework as a child, where we'd had family dinners, where I'd sat with my husband and planned our dreams. Victoria spread the papers out in front of me. See, it's very simple. You sign here, here, and here. I sign here, and then everything is official. I looked at the papers. They were full of legal words I didn't understand. Victoria, I don't know about this. Mom, she reached across the table and grabbed my hand. Her grip was tight, too tight. You're making this harder than it needs to be. I'm your daughter. Don't you trust me? That question hit me like a slap. Did I trust her? I wanted to. She was my baby girl, but something felt wrong, very wrong. I need more time, I said. Victoria's face changed. The sweetness disappeared, replaced by something cold and hard. Time? How much time do you need? I've been patient with you for weeks. Victoria, please. Marcus cut in. Margaret, let me explain something to you. The housing market is very good right now. Victoria is trying to help you secure your future. But if you wait too long, things could change. Property values could drop. You could end up with nothing. But I don't want to sell the house, I said. Nobody said anything about selling, Victoria said quickly. Too quickly. The house would still be yours, you'd still live here. It would just be in my name legally for protection. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her, and I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Greed. No, I said. What? I said no. I'm not signing anything today. I need to think about this more. I need to talk to someone. Victoria stood up so fast her chair scraped against the floor. Talk to who? One of your busybody neighbors. Mom, you're being ridiculous. I think I should talk to a lawyer, I said quietly. A lawyer? Victoria's voice rose to a shout. You're going to waste money on a lawyer instead of trusting your own daughter. What kind of mother are you? Those words cut deep. I felt tears spring to my eyes. Victoria, please don't yell at me. I'll yell if I want to. You're being selfish and stubborn. After everything I've done for you. Everything you've done for me? I stood up too, anger finally pushing past the hurt. What have you done for me, Victoria? You call me maybe once a month. You visit me 3 or 4 times a year. You forgot my birthday last year. And now you come here demanding that I sign over my house, and you say you're doing it for me. Victoria's face turned red. How dare you? I have a life, Mom. I have a career. I can't drop everything to babysit you. I never asked you to babysit me. I never asked you for anything. Marcus stood up, putting a hand on Victoria's arm. Come on, Victoria. Let's go. Your mother obviously doesn't appreciate what you're trying to do for her. Victoria grabbed the papers and shoved them back in her folder. At the door, she turned back to me. You're going to regret this, Mom. When you're old and sick and can't take care of yourself, don't come crying to me. The door slammed behind them. I stood in my kitchen, shaking and crying, and wondering how my daughter had turned into a stranger. But that was just the beginning. What Victoria did next was so much worse. 2 weeks later, I got a call from my bank. Mrs. Chen, this is David from Riverside Bank. We need to talk about your mortgage. My heart started pounding. What about my mortgage? I paid it off 12 years ago. That's what I'm calling about. We have a record that you took out a new mortgage 3 months ago for $200,000. The room started spinning. That's impossible. I never took out a mortgage. We have documents here with your signature, Mrs. Chen. The money was deposited into an account in your name. What account? I only have one account and I never received any money. David was quiet for a moment. Mrs. Chen, I think you need to come down to the bank. Today, if possible, we need to sort this out. I drove to the bank in a panic. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the steering wheel. When I got there, David showed me papers, loan applications, signatures, bank account numbers. The signature looked like mine, but I'd never signed those papers. I'd never seen them before in my life. Someone has stolen your identity, David said gently. We need to call the police. But who would do this? Who would? And then it hit me. The bank account where the money was deposited. David showed me the number. I recognized it. It was Victoria's account number. I'd sent her money a few times over the years for birthdays and Christmas. I knew that number. My own daughter had stolen my identity. She'd forged my signature, taken out a loan on my paid-off house, and stolen $200,000. I felt like I was going to be sick. The police came. They asked questions. They looked at the papers. They asked if I had any idea who might have done this. I should have told them about Victoria right then, but I couldn't. She was my daughter. How could I tell the police that my own child had betrayed me like this? I don't know, I lied. I don't know who did this. But Victoria knew that I knew, because 2 days later, I got a letter from her lawyer. The letter said that Victoria was suing me for ownership of the house. It said that we'd had a verbal agreement that the house would go to her. It said that I was mentally unstable and couldn't take care of the property. It said a lot of lies. The court date was set for 2 months away. I sat at my kitchen table with that letter in my hands, and I finally understood. Victoria hadn't just wanted to take my house. She'd planned this. The phone calls, the pressure to sign papers, the fake mortgage, it was all part of a plan. And when I'd refused to cooperate, she decided to take the house by force. My own daughter was trying to destroy me. I called Diane, sobbing so hard I could barely speak. "Oh, honey," she said. "Oh, Margaret, I'm so sorry." "What do I do, Diane? I can't afford a lawyer. I don't know anything about court or legal things. How do I fight this?" "You fight back," Diane said firmly. "You stand up for yourself. You gather every piece of paper you have, every bill, every receipt, every document that proves that house is yours. And you walk into that courtroom with your head held high." "But I'm just one person. She has a lawyer, she has money, she has—" "She has nothing," Diane interrupted. "Because she doesn't have the truth. You do. The truth is on your side, Margaret. Don't you forget that." So that's what I did. For 2 months, I gathered documents. I made copies of everything: the original deed to the house, decades of paid bills, bank statements, tax records. I found the death certificate from when my husband died, showing that the house had transferred to me. I found Victoria's birth certificate. I even found old photos of us together, happy, back when she was still my little girl. I went to the library and read books about property law. I watched videos online about how to represent yourself in court. I practiced what I would say, standing in front of my bathroom mirror, pretending the mirror was the judge. I was terrified, but I wasn't going to give up without a fight. The night before the court date, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Victoria, about the little girl who used to hold my hand when we crossed the street, about the teenager who'd cried in my arms when her first boyfriend broke her heart, about the young woman I'd helped move into her first apartment. Where had that girl gone? What had happened to her? And that's how I ended up in that courtroom, standing alone, with my folder of documents and my second-hand dress and my shaking hands. When Victoria's lawyer finished talking about verbal agreements and mental instability, the judge turned to me. "Mrs. Chen, do you have anything to say?" I took a deep breath. This was it. This was my moment. "Your Honor," I said, my voice steady now, "I have proof that my daughter is lying." Victoria's head snapped toward me. Her eyes went wide. "I have proof that she forged my signature on loan documents. I have proof that she stole $200,000 from a fraudulent mortgage on my house. I have proof that this entire case is built on lies." I opened my folder and pulled out the documents. My hands weren't shaking anymore. "And I'm ready to show you everything." The courtroom went completely silent. Victoria's face had gone white as paper. Her lawyer was frantically whispering to her, but she wasn't listening. She was staring at me like she'd seen a ghost. The judge leaned forward, his eyes sharp and interested. "Approach the bench, Mrs. Chen." I walked forward with my documents, and for the first time in months, I felt something that had been missing. I felt strong. But what I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was that Victoria had one more trick up her sleeve, and when she played it, it would nearly destroy everything. Before we continue this story, I need your help. If you're enjoying this emotional journey, please subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss powerful stories like this one. And I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me what part of the country you're watching from. Are you Team Margaret? Do you think Victoria can be redeemed? Let me know in the comments. Your support keeps these stories coming. I walked toward the judge's bench with my folder clutched against my chest. My heart was pounding so loud I was sure everyone in the courtroom could hear it. But I kept my head up and my steps steady. The judge took the papers from my hands and began looking through them. His eyebrows rose higher and higher as he read. He looked at the bank statements. He looked at the loan documents. He looked at the signatures. "Mrs. Chen," he said slowly, "are you telling me that your daughter forged your signature on these loan documents?" "Yes, Your Honor," I said. "I never signed those papers. I never applied for that loan. I didn't even know about it until the bank called me." Victoria's lawyer jumped up. "Your Honor, this is ridiculous. My client would never. Sit down, counselor, the judge said sharply. I'm reviewing evidence. The lawyer sat down, but he looked angry. He whispered something harsh to Victoria, and she started crying. But they weren't real tears. I'd seen Victoria's real tears. These were the fake ones she used when she wanted something. The judge looked at more papers. Mrs. Chen, do you have proof that the signature on these loan documents isn't yours? I do, Your Honor. I pulled out another document. I had a handwriting expert look at the signatures. This is his report. He says the signature on the loan papers doesn't match my real signature. I'd spent almost all of my savings to pay for that expert. It had cost me $800, money I needed for groceries and bills. But it was worth it. Because the expert had confirmed what I already knew. Those weren't my signatures. The judge read the expert's report carefully. Then he looked at Victoria. Miss Chen, I'm going to ask you a direct question, and I remind you that you're under oath. Did you forge your mother's signature on these loan documents? Victoria stood up slowly. Her hands were shaking now, just like mine had been earlier. Your Honor, I can explain. That's not what I asked. Did you or did you not forge your mother's signature? The courtroom was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Everyone was waiting for Victoria's answer. Victoria looked at her lawyer. He shook his head slightly, telling her not to answer. But the judge saw it. Miss Chen, answer the question. Victoria's face crumpled. I only did it because I was trying to help her. Mom can't take care of that big house anymore. She's getting old and forgetful. I was trying to protect her assets. By stealing from her, the judge's voice was cold. It's not stealing if it's family, Victoria shouted. That house should be mine anyway. I grew up there. I have memories there. She's being selfish by keeping it all to herself. I felt like I'd been slapped. How could she say these things? How could she believe them? The judge turned to me. Mrs. Chen, I need to understand the full situation here. Can you tell me about this loan? Where did the money go? It went into my daughter's bank account, Your Honor. The bank showed me the records, all $200. Zero was transferred to an account in her name. And did she use any of this money to help you? To pay your bills or maintain your property? No, Your Honor. She kept it all. The judge looked at Victoria again. Miss Chen, what did you do with the money? Victoria's lawyer stood up quickly. Your Honor, my client doesn't have to answer that question. This is a property dispute case, not a criminal case. It might become a criminal case very quickly, the judge said. Miss Chen. Victoria wiped her fake tears away. When she spoke, her voice was hard and cold, the real Victoria showing through. I used it to invest in property with my boyfriend. We bought 2 rental houses. We're building a business together. Mom was just sitting on all that equity, doing nothing with it. It was a waste. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She'd stolen my money to buy houses with Marcus. Houses that they would own. Houses that would make them money. And she thought that was okay because I was wasting the equity in my home. Victoria, I said quietly, how could you? She turned to look at me, and for a second I saw something like guilt in her eyes. But then it was gone, replaced by anger. How could I? She said. How could you? You're sitting in that big house all alone, being selfish while I'm struggling to build a future. Do you know how hard it is to buy property these days? Do you know how expensive everything is? You had your chance to build wealth. Now it's my turn. I'm not stopping you from building wealth, I said, my voice shaking. But you can't build it by stealing from me. I'm not stealing. I'm your daughter. Everything you have should be mine eventually anyway. I'm just taking it a little early. The judge banged his gavel. That's enough. Miss Chen, sit down. Mrs. Chen, you may return to your seat. I walked back to my side of the courtroom on wobbly legs. I felt sick. I felt betrayed. But most of all, I felt sad. My daughter really believed that she had a right to take everything from me. She really thought I was being selfish by wanting to keep my own house. The judge looked at both of us. I'm going to take a 30-minute recess to review all of this evidence. When I return, I'll make my decision about the property. But I'm also going to recommend that the district attorney's office investigate the loan fraud. This is a serious matter." He banged his gavel again and left the courtroom. As soon as he was gone, Victoria and Marcus rushed out of the room. Her lawyer stayed behind, packing up his papers. He looked angry and worried. I sat in my chair, alone. Diane had offered to come with me today, but I'd told her no. I'd wanted to do this by myself. Now I wondered if that had been a mistake. I could have used a friendly face. A young woman approached me. She was maybe 25, wearing a simple gray suit. "Mrs. Chen, my name is Lisa Park. I'm a social worker with the county. Can I talk to you for a minute?" "Okay," I said, confused. She sat down next to me. "I've been listening to your case. I want you to know that what your daughter did, the loan fraud, the forgery, those are serious crimes. You could press charges against her." "Press charges? You mean send her to jail?" "Possibly. At the very least, she'd have a criminal record. She'd have to pay back the money she stole." I shook my head. "I don't want to send my daughter to jail. I just want my house to stay mine." Lisa looked at me with kind eyes. "Mrs. Chen, I understand that this is your daughter, but she committed fraud against you. She stole $200,000 from you, and from what I heard in there, she doesn't seem sorry about it." "She's just confused," I said. "She's under a lot of pressure. Her boyfriend is probably influencing her." "Mrs. Chen," Lisa interrupted gently, "your daughter is 32 years old. She's not a child. She made these choices herself. And if you don't hold her accountable, she'll keep doing things like this. Maybe not to you, but to someone else." I didn't want to hear this. I didn't want to believe that my Victoria was really a bad person. There had to be some explanation. There had to be some way to fix this. "I need to think," I said. Lisa nodded and gave me her card. "Call me if you need help. There are resources available for victims of financial abuse, even when it's family members doing the abuse." Financial abuse. Is that what this was? I'd heard that term before, but I'd always thought it meant husbands stealing from wives or scammers stealing from old people. I'd never thought it could mean a daughter stealing from her mother. The 30 minutes passed slowly. I sat alone in the courtroom, looking at the walls, thinking about everything that had happened. I thought about Victoria as a baby, so small and perfect. I thought about teaching her to ride a bike, running behind her and holding the seat until she was ready to go on her own. I thought about her high school graduation, how proud I'd been when she walked across that stage. Where had I gone wrong? What had I done to make her turn out like this? Or maybe it wasn't my fault. Maybe some people just changed. Maybe the world changed them. Maybe money and greed and ambition changed them. Victoria came back into the courtroom just before the judge returned. She sat on her side, not looking at me. Marcus wasn't with her anymore. Her lawyer whispered something to her, and she nodded. The judge came back in, and everyone stood up. When we sat down again, my heart was racing. "I've reviewed all the evidence," the judge said, "and I've made my decision about the property dispute. Mrs. Margaret Chen, the house at 42 Maple Street is legally yours. Your name is on the deed. You have paid all the bills for decades. There is no evidence of any agreement, verbal or written, that you would transfer the property to your daughter. Miss Victoria Chen's claim to the property is denied." I felt tears of relief running down my face. I'd won. The house was still mine. But the judge wasn't finished. "However, the matter of the fraudulent loan is extremely serious. Miss Chen, I am referring this case to the district attorney's office for criminal investigation. You may face charges of identity theft, fraud, and forgery. These are felonies that carry significant prison time." Victoria gasped. Her lawyer put a hand on her arm. "Furthermore," the judge continued, "I am ordering Miss Victoria Chen to repay the full amount of the fraudulent loan, $200,000, to Mrs. Margaret Chen within 90 days. If she fails to do so, her assets may be seized, including the properties she purchased with the stolen funds." Victoria stood up, her face red. "That's not fair. Those properties are my business. You can't take them." "I can and I will if you don't repay your mother," the judge said firmly. "You stole from her. You will make it right. Court is adjourned." He banged the gavel one final time and left. I sat there, unable to move. I'd won, but I didn't feel happy. I felt empty and sad and tired. Victoria stormed past me without a word, her lawyer hurrying after her. At the door, she turned back and looked at me. Her face was full of hate. "I'll never forgive you for this," she said. Then she was gone. I sat in the empty courtroom and cried, not because I'd lost, but because I'd won. I'd won the case, but I'd lost my daughter. Over the next few weeks, strange things started happening. First, I got a letter from Victoria's lawyer. It said that Victoria couldn't pay back the $200,000 because she didn't have the money. The properties she'd bought were tied up in mortgages. She'd only put down payments on them, and the rest was borrowed money. She actually owed more than she owned. So not only had she stolen from me, but she'd used my money as down payments on properties that weren't even paid off. And now she had nothing to give back. The district attorney did open a criminal investigation. A detective came to my house to ask me questions. He was a nice man named Detective Roberts, probably in his 40s, with a tired face. "Mrs. Chen, I need to know, do you want to press charges against your daughter?" I'd been thinking about this question for days. What would happen to her if I did? If convicted, she could face 3 to 5 years in prison for identity theft and fraud. She'd have a felony record. It would affect her ability to get jobs in the future. 3 to 5 years. My Victoria in prison. What if I don't press charges? Then we can't pursue the criminal case. But she'd still owe you the money in civil court. And she'd probably get away with it, Mrs. Chen. She'd learn that she can steal and lie and face no real consequences. I thought about what Lisa, the social worker, had said, about holding Victoria accountable, about protecting other people from her in the future. But she was my daughter, my baby girl. How could I send her to prison? "Can I have time to think about it?" I asked. Detective Roberts nodded. "You have 30 days to decide. After that, the statute of limitations issues get complicated. But Mrs. Chen, in my 20 years as a detective, I've seen a lot of family financial abuse. And I've learned one thing: people who do this once will do it again. They don't stop unless they're forced to stop." After he left, I sat in my kitchen and thought about Victoria, really thought about her. The truth was, this wasn't the first time she'd taken advantage of me. When she was in college, she'd borrowed $5,000 from me for tuition, but I'd later found out she'd used it for a trip to Europe with her friends. She'd never paid me back. When she'd started her first job, she'd asked to borrow my credit card for emergencies. I'd given it to her, and she'd charged $3,000 on it before I'd noticed. She'd promised to pay me back. She never did. When her father died and left her $50,000 in his life insurance, she'd spent it all in 6 months on clothes and restaurants and trips. She'd never saved a penny. I'd always made excuses for her. She was young. She was learning. She'd be more responsible when she got older. But she was 32 now, and she'd just tried to steal my house. Detective Roberts was right. She wouldn't stop unless someone made her stop. But could I be that someone? Could I be the one to send my own daughter to prison? While I was struggling with this decision, something even worse happened. I woke up one morning to find red paint splattered all over my front door. Someone had spray painted the word "bitch" across it in huge letters. My hands shook as I called the police. When they came, they took photos and asked if I knew who might have done it. I knew, of course I knew, but I couldn't prove it. 3 days later, someone slashed all 4 tires on my car. The repair cost me $600 that I didn't have. A week after that, I found my garden completely destroyed. Someone had pulled up all my plants, broken my tomato stakes, and poured something toxic on the soil. Years of work destroyed in one night. I was scared now, really scared. I installed a security camera by my front door, another expense I couldn't afford. But I needed to know who was doing this. The answer came 2 nights later. At 2 a.m., my security camera caught someone approaching my house. They had a baseball bat. They were wearing a hoodie with the hood up, so I couldn't see their face at first. But then they looked up at the camera, and I saw who it was. Marcus, Victoria's boyfriend. He smashed my mailbox with the bat. Then he spray-painted more words on my garage door. Words I won't repeat, but they were horrible and threatening. The camera caught everything. I called the police immediately. They came and took the video evidence. Within hours, they'd arrested Marcus. But here's the thing. When they questioned him, he said something that broke my heart all over again. "Victoria told me to do it," he said. "She said her mom ruined her life and deserved to be punished. She said if I loved her, I'd help her get revenge." My daughter hadn't just stolen from me. She was now trying to terrorize me, to drive me out of my own home with fear. The police called me to let me know. "Mrs. Chen, we're charging Marcus with vandalism and harassment, but Victoria put him up to it. We can charge her too as an accessory, combined with the fraud charges. She's looking at serious prison time." I felt numb. How much time? 7 to 10 years, possibly. 10 years. She'd be 42 when she got out, middle-aged, with a criminal record, her whole life ruined. But hadn't she tried to ruin mine? I went to bed that night unable to sleep. I kept thinking about a conversation I'd had with Victoria when she was 16. She'd been caught cheating on a test at school and was going to fail the class. "Mom," she'd cried, "please talk to the teacher. Tell him I'm a good student. Tell him I made a mistake." "Victoria," I'd said, "you did make a mistake, and mistakes have consequences. If I fix this for you, you'll never learn. You have to face what you've done." "But it will ruin my GPA. It will ruin everything." "No," I'd said firmly. "It will teach you that cheating doesn't pay. It will teach you to make better choices." She'd been so angry with me then. She'd cried for days. But she'd retaken the class, worked hard and passed, and she'd never cheated again as far as I knew. I'd taught her that lesson when she was 16, but now, at 32, she needed to learn it again. And this time, the stakes were much higher. The next morning, I called Detective Roberts. "I've made my decision," I said. "I want to press charges, all of them. The fraud, the identity theft, everything." There was a pause. "Are you sure, Mrs. Chen? This is your daughter." "I'm sure," I said, and I was surprised at how steady my voice sounded. "She needs to learn that actions have consequences, and I need to protect myself. If I don't stop her now, she'll never stop." "Okay," Detective Roberts said. "I'll file the charges today." After I hung up, I cried for an hour. But underneath the sadness, I felt something else. Something I hadn't felt in a long time. I felt like I was doing the right thing. The next few weeks were like living in a nightmare. Victoria was arrested and charged with multiple felonies. The story made the local news. Woman accused of defrauding elderly mother. I hated that they called me elderly. I was 58, not 90. But I guessed to the news reporters, anyone over 50 was elderly. Victoria made bail. Marcus's parents paid it, apparently. But she had to wear an ankle monitor and wasn't allowed to come within 500 feet of me or my house. My phone rang constantly. Some calls were from reporters wanting to interview me. I said no to all of them. Some were from Victoria's friends, calling to yell at me. "How could you do this to your own daughter?" one woman screamed. "She made a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes. You're destroying her life." "She tried to destroy mine first," I said quietly and hung up. But the worst call came from Victoria herself. She wasn't supposed to contact me. It was a condition of her bail, but she called from a number I didn't recognize. "Mom," her voice was small, scared, the voice of my little girl. "Victoria," I said, "you're not supposed to call me." "I know, I need to talk to you, please." "What do you want to say?" There was a long silence. Then, "I'm sorry." 2 words. I'd been waiting months to hear them, but now that I'd heard them, they felt empty. "Are you sorry you did it?" I asked. "Or are you sorry you got caught?" "I'm sorry for all of it. Mom, I made a terrible mistake. I got caught up in Marcus's plans, and he convinced me that we were helping you, and I didn't think it through." "You forged my signature, Victoria. You stole $200,000. You sent Marcus to vandalize my house. You tried to take everything from me." "I know, and I'm sorry. But Mom, if you testify against me in court, I'll go to prison. My life will be over. Is that what you want? What I want, I said slowly, is for you to take responsibility for what you've done. What I want is for you to understand that you hurt me, really hurt me. What I want is my daughter back, the daughter I raised, who knew right from wrong. I am her, Victoria cried. I'm still that person, I just made a mistake. This wasn't a mistake, Victoria. A mistake is when you accidentally break a glass or forget an appointment. This was a choice, multiple choices. You chose to betray me. So you're really going to let them send me to prison, your own daughter. I'm not sending you to prison, I said. You sent yourself there when you decided to commit crimes. This is on you, Victoria, not on me. She was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice had changed. The fear was gone, replaced by cold anger. Fine, if that's how you want it, then fine. But when I get out, and I will get out, you'll never see me again. Never. I'll be dead to you, and you'll be dead to me. You'll die alone in that house with no one who loves you. Is that what you want? The words hurt. They hurt so much, but I kept my voice steady. If that's your choice, then I'll have to live with it, but at least I'll live with a clear conscience. Can you say the same? Victoria hung up on me. I sat there with the phone in my hand, tears running down my face. I just lost my daughter. Not to death or distance, but to her own greed and anger and refusal to take responsibility. Diane came over that evening and found me crying at the kitchen table. Oh, honey, she said, wrapping her arms around me. I heard about the charges. You did the right thing. Then why does it feel so wrong? I sobbed. Because she's your daughter and you love her. That's what makes this so hard. But Margaret, listen to me. What she did was wrong, deeply wrong. And if you'd let her get away with it, you'd be telling her that she can treat people this way. You'd be enabling her. You're being a good mother by holding her accountable. I don't feel like a good mother. I feel like a failure. Diane held me at arm's length and looked into my eyes. You raised a daughter who had every opportunity to be a good person. You taught her right from wrong. You gave her love and support and guidance. What she chose to do with all that, that's on her. Not on you. You can't control other people's choices, Margaret, not even your children's. I wanted to believe her. I really did. The trial was set for 3 months away. In the meantime, the court ordered Victoria to stay away from me, and Marcus was also charged as an accessory to the fraud and for the vandalism. I tried to go back to normal life, but nothing felt normal anymore. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, sure I heard someone breaking in. I'd jump every time the phone rang. I'd check the security camera footage obsessively. I planted new seeds in my garden, trying to repair the damage, but my heart wasn't in it. Everything reminded me of Victoria. The garden reminded me of the little girl who used to help me water the plants. The kitchen reminded me of teaching her to bake cookies. The living room reminded me of movie nights when she was young, cuddled up next to me on the couch. My house, the house I'd fought so hard to keep, felt haunted by memories. One afternoon, I was pulling weeds in the garden when I heard a car pull up. I looked up, expecting maybe Diane or another friend. Instead, I saw Marcus's car. My heart started pounding. He wasn't supposed to be here. That was a violation of his bail conditions. I reached for my phone, ready to call 911. But the person who got out of the car wasn't Marcus. It was a woman I'd never seen before. She was maybe 40, with short black hair and a kind face. Mrs. Chen, she called out. My name is Rachel. Can I talk to you for a minute? Who are you? I asked, keeping my distance. I'm Marcus's sister, she said. I know I shouldn't be here and I know this is awkward, but there's something you need to know. What? Rachel took a deep breath. Marcus has been scamming people for years. Property fraud is his specialty. He finds vulnerable people, gains their trust, and then steals from them. He's done it to at least 5 other people that I know of. My mouth fell open. What? He's been investigated before, but he's clever. He always gets someone else to do the actual fraud, usually a girlfriend, and then he walks away clean while they take the blame. Your daughter, Mrs. Chen. She's not the first person he's manipulated into doing this. And if she goes to prison, he'll just move on to the next victim. I sat down hard on my garden bench, my legs too weak to hold me. Are you saying Victoria was manipulated? I'm saying my brother is a very good liar. He's charming and convincing, and he knows how to make people believe that illegal things are actually okay. That they're helping, not hurting. I've watched him do it my whole life. Why are you telling me this? Rachel's eyes filled with tears. Because I'm tired of watching him destroy people's lives. Because maybe if someone had spoken up years ago, he would have been stopped before he hurt so many people. And because, she paused, because I have a daughter too, and if someone was hurting her, I'd want someone to tell me. But Victoria made her own choices, I said. She signed the papers. She forged my signature. I know, and she needs to face consequences for that, but I thought you should know the full picture. Marcus targeted your daughter because he knew she had access to you and your house. He planned the whole thing. He drew up the fake loan papers. He probably even practiced forging your signature before he had her do it. I felt sick. Do you have proof of any of this? Not enough for court, Rachel admitted. Marcus is too smart for that, but I've reported him to the police. I gave them the names of his other victims. Maybe if enough people come forward, they can build a case against him. After Rachel left, I sat in my garden for a long time, thinking. Was Victoria a victim too? Had Marcus manipulated her into betraying me? Or was that just an excuse? She was 32 years old. She knew right from wrong. Even if Marcus had planned it all, she'd still chosen to go along with it. But maybe it wasn't all black and white. Maybe Victoria had made terrible choices, but maybe she'd also been influenced by someone who knew exactly how to exploit her weaknesses. I didn't know what to think anymore. Everything felt complicated and confusing and wrong. That night, I made a decision. I called Lisa Park, the social worker from the courthouse. Lisa, it's Margaret Chen. I need advice. Of course, Mrs. Chen. What's going on? I told her everything. About Rachel's visit, about Marcus's history, about my confusion. When I finished, Lisa was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Mrs. Chen, here's what I think. Your daughter is responsible for her actions, but it sounds like she was also manipulated by someone who's very good at manipulation. Those two things can both be true at the same time. So what do I do? That depends. What do you want? I stopped. What did I want? I want my daughter to understand what she did wrong. I want her to be truly sorry. I want her to change. And I want justice for what happened to me. Then maybe, Lisa said slowly, there's a middle path. Instead of pushing for maximum prison time, you could ask the prosecutor to offer Victoria a plea deal. She pleads guilty, shows real remorse, agrees to pay you back over time, and gets probation instead of prison. But only if she testifies against Marcus. That way, Victoria faces consequences but also has a chance to make things right. And Marcus, the real mastermind, goes to prison. It wasn't perfect. Victoria would still have a criminal record. She'd still have to pay me back. She'd still face consequences. But she wouldn't spend years in prison. She'd have a chance to rebuild her life, to become the person I'd raised her to be. Can I do that? I asked. Can I ask the prosecutor for that? You're the victim. You have a lot of influence over how this case goes. The prosecutor will listen to you. I spent the next week thinking about it, praying about it, talking to Diane about it. And then I called the prosecutor's office and asked for a meeting. The prosecutor was a woman named Diana Torres. She was probably in her 50s, with steel gray hair and sharp eyes. She listened to everything I had to say without interrupting. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. Mrs. Chen, I understand what you're asking for, but I have to be honest with you, your daughter committed serious crimes. Identity theft, fraud, conspiracy. These aren't small things. I know, I said, and I want her to face consequences, but I also want her to have a chance to change. And I want Marcus to face consequences too. From what I've learned, he's the real criminal here. He's done this before. He'll do it again if he's not stopped. Diana nodded slowly. We've been investigating Marcus based on the tip from his sister. You're right, He's been running property scams for years, but he's been careful. He always uses other people to do the actual fraud. So he gets away with it. Not this time. If Victoria testifies against him, if she explains how he manipulated her and planned the whole thing, we can make a case against him. And with his history, he'd be looking at 10 to 15 years. And Victoria. With a plea deal, testifying against Marcus, showing genuine remorse, and agreeing to full restitution to you, I could probably get her 5 years probation, community service, and a felony record. No jail time unless she violates probation. My heart lifted for the first time in months. Really? But there are conditions, Diana said firmly. She has to plead guilty. She has to show real remorse, and I mean real, not the fake tears we saw in court. She has to pay you back, even if it takes her the rest of her life. She has to testify fully and honestly against Marcus, and she has to stay out of trouble for 5 years. If she messes up even once, she goes to prison for the full sentence. I understand, I said. Mrs. Chen, I need to make sure you understand what you're offering here. Your daughter tried to steal your house. She terrorized you. She hurt you deeply. And you're willing to give her another chance. I thought about that question, really thought about it. She's my daughter, I said finally. I'll always love her even when I don't like her. And I believe people can change. Maybe I'm being foolish. Maybe she'll just hurt me again. But I have to try. If I don't give her this chance, I'll regret it for the rest of my life. Diana studied me for a long moment. Then she nodded. Okay, I'll offer Victoria the plea deal. But Mrs. Chen, if she rejects it, if she refuses to show remorse or testify against Marcus, then I'm going to push for the maximum sentence. I won't let her hurt you again. Thank you, I said. Don't thank me yet. We still have to see if Victoria is willing to take the deal. And that, Diana said, is up to her. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more incredible true stories. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss what happens next. And drop a comment below. Tell me where you're watching from and whether you think Margaret is making the right choice. Your comments mean everything. The meeting was set for the following Tuesday. Victoria, her lawyer, the prosecutor Diana Torres, and me, all in one room to discuss the plea deal. I was so nervous I barely slept the night before. I kept imagining different scenarios. Would Victoria accept the deal? Would she apologize? Would she spit in my face and tell me she'd rather go to prison than admit she was wrong? I didn't know which version of my daughter would show up. Diane offered to come with me, but I said no. This was something I needed to do alone. Just me and Victoria, face to face, one more time. The meeting was at the prosecutor's office in a small conference room with gray walls and fluorescent lights that hummed too loudly. I arrived early and sat in one of the plastic chairs, my hands folded in my lap, trying to keep them from shaking. Diana came in first, carrying a folder full of papers. Mrs. Chen, how are you holding up? I'm okay, I lied. Victoria and her lawyer should be here any minute. Remember, you don't have to say anything if you don't want to. This is between me and Victoria's lawyer. You're here as a courtesy because you're the victim. But I wasn't just the victim. I was Victoria's mother, and that made everything so much more complicated. 5 minutes later, Victoria walked in with her lawyer, Mr. Patterson. Victoria looked terrible. She'd lost weight. Her skin was pale. Her eyes had dark circles under them. She was wearing a simple blue dress instead of her usual expensive clothes, and her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She looked like my Victoria again. The real one, not the one who tried to steal from me. And for a second, I wanted to reach out and hug her and tell her everything would be okay. But I didn't, because everything wasn't okay, and it wouldn't be okay until Victoria made it right. Victoria saw me and froze in the doorway. Our eyes met. I saw so many emotions flash across her face: shame, anger, sadness, fear. But I couldn't tell which one was real. Sit down, Miss Chen, Diana said, gesturing to the chairs across from me. Victoria and Mr. Patterson sat. Victoria kept her eyes down, staring at the table. Diana opened her folder. Let's get right to it. Miss Chen, we're offering you a plea deal. You plead guilty to all charges: identity theft, fraud, forgery, and conspiracy. In exchange, you'll receive 5 years probation instead of prison time. You'll perform 500 hours of community service. You'll pay full restitution to your mother, $200,000 plus interest and legal fees, on a payment plan approved by the court. And you'll testify fully and honestly against Marcus Stevens regarding his role in planning and executing this fraud. Victoria's head snapped up. Testify against Marcus? Yes, we have evidence that Mr. Stevens has committed similar property frauds before. Your testimony will help us build a case against him. If you refuse to testify, the deal is off the table. Victoria looked at her lawyer. He whispered something to her, and she shook her head violently. I can't do that, she said. Marcus will. She stopped herself. Marcus will what? Diana asked sharply. Hurt you, threaten you, because if that's the case, we can offer you protection. No, it's not that. It's just, he'll be so angry with me. Miss Chen, Diana said, her voice cold, Marcus used you. He manipulated you into committing crimes so that he could profit while you took all the risk. He sent you to vandalize your mother's house. He's the reason you're sitting here facing felony charges, and you're worried about making him angry. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. You don't understand. Marcus loves me. We were building a life together. This was supposed to be our start, our investment in the future. By stealing from your mother? I couldn't help it. The words burst out of me. Victoria, how can you still defend him after everything he's done? Victoria looked at me, and for a moment, her mask slipped. Because he's the only person who's ever believed in me. He thinks I'm smart and capable and worthy of success. He doesn't treat me like a child the way you always did. I never treated you like a child. I treated you like my daughter. Same thing. You never believed I could be successful on my own. You always thought I needed your help, your guidance, your rules. Marcus saw me as an equal. He saw you as a tool, Diana interrupted. A tool he could use to commit crimes. That's not love, Miss Chen. That's manipulation. Victoria's lawyer cleared his throat. Can we have a moment alone with my client? Diana nodded. You have 10 minutes. Diana and I left the room and stood in the hallway. Through the door, I could hear Victoria and Mr. Patterson talking in low, urgent voices, but I couldn't make out the words. Do you think she'll take the deal? I asked Diana. I don't know. She's still under Marcus's influence, even now. That's common with manipulation victims. They can't see what's being done to them because they're too emotionally invested. What happens if she says no? Then we go to trial, and I push for the maximum sentence, 7 to 10 years in prison. Mrs. Chen, I need you to be prepared for that possibility. 7 to 10 years. My daughter in prison for that long. But what choice did I have? She'd committed crimes, real crimes. She'd hurt me, stolen from me, tried to destroy my life. The door opened, and Mr. Patterson gestured for us to come back in. Victoria's eyes were red from crying. She looked small and fragile and scared. Miss Chen, Diana said, what's your answer? Victoria took a shaky breath. I want to take the deal, but I have some conditions. Diana raised an eyebrow. You're not in a position to make conditions. Just hear me out, Victoria said. I'll plead guilty. I'll do the community service. I'll pay back the money, but I want the payments to be affordable. I can't pay $200,000 if I can't even afford to eat. The court will set a reasonable payment plan based on your income, Diana said. And I'll testify against Marcus, but I need protection. Once he finds out I'm testifying, he'll... She stopped, her voice breaking. He'll come after me. We can arrange for a restraining order and police protection if necessary, Diana said. Victoria nodded slowly. Then she turned to look at me, really look at me, for the first time since she'd walked in. Mom, she said, her voice small and broken, I'm sorry. I waited. I needed to hear more than that. I'm sorry for everything, she continued. I'm sorry for lying to you. I'm sorry for forging your signature. I'm sorry for trying to take your house. I'm sorry for sending Marcus to scare you. I'm sorry for being such a terrible daughter. The tears were streaming down her face now, and these didn't look like fake tears. These looked real. "I got so caught up in Marcus's plans," she said. "He made it all sound so reasonable. He said we were protecting you, making sure you'd be taken care of. He said the house was wasted on just one person, and we could use it to build wealth that would benefit all of us eventually. He made it sound like we were helping you, not stealing from you." "But you knew it was wrong," I said quietly. "Didn't you? In your heart you knew." Victoria nodded, sobbing now. "I did, but I didn't want to admit it. I wanted to believe Marcus. I wanted to believe we were doing something smart and ambitious, not something criminal and cruel. And by the time I realized how wrong it all was, I was in too deep. I'd already forged your signature. I'd already taken the money. I couldn't go back." "You could have told me the truth," I said. "At any point, you could have come to me and said, 'Mom, I made a terrible mistake and I need help.' I would have helped you, Victoria. I'm your mother." "I know," she whispered, "but I was too proud, too ashamed, too scared of disappointing you." "You disappointed me more by lying than you ever could have by telling the truth." Victoria covered her face with her hands and cried like she hadn't cried since she was a little girl. Deep, racking sobs that shook her whole body. Part of me wanted to go to her, to hold her, to comfort her. But another part of me, the part that had been hurt and betrayed, stayed in my chair. Mr. Patterson put a hand on Victoria's shoulder. "Miss Chen, we need to make a decision. Do you accept the plea deal?" Victoria wiped her face and took several deep breaths. When she spoke, her voice was hoarse but steady. "Yes, I accept the deal. I'll plead guilty. I'll testify against Marcus. I'll pay Mom back every penny, even if it takes me the rest of my life. I'll do whatever I have to do to make this right." Diana nodded. "Then we have an agreement. I'll draw up the paperwork. The plea hearing is scheduled for 2 weeks from today. Miss Chen, I suggest you use that time to think very carefully about what you're going to say in court. The judge will want to hear genuine remorse, not excuses." "I understand," Victoria said. Diana stood up. "Mrs. Chen, do you accept these terms?" I looked at my daughter. She looked back at me, her eyes pleading. Did I accept? Was this enough? Would Victoria really change, or was this just another manipulation? I didn't know, but I had to take the chance. "I accept," I said. The next 2 weeks were strange. Victoria wasn't allowed to contact me directly because of the restraining order, but her lawyer sent me a letter from her. A real letter, handwritten on notebook paper. "Dear Mom, I know a letter can't fix what I've done. Words are cheap, and I've said a lot of words over the years that turned out to be lies. But I want to try anyway. I've spent the last few weeks in therapy, trying to understand how I became the person who could steal from her own mother. Dr. Martinez, my therapist, says I've been struggling with feelings of inadequacy for most of my life. I always felt like I wasn't good enough, wasn't successful enough, wasn't worthy enough. When I met Marcus, he made me feel special. He made me feel like I could be somebody important, somebody powerful. But Dr. Martinez also says that none of that is an excuse. Lots of people feel inadequate. Most of them don't commit fraud against their parents. The truth is, I was jealous of you, Mom. You seemed so content with your simple life, your house, your garden, your quiet existence. I wanted more than that. I wanted excitement and money and success. And when Marcus offered me a way to get those things, I took it. I didn't care who I hurt in the process. I didn't see you as a person with feelings and rights. I saw you as an obstacle between me and what I wanted. That's the most shameful thing I've ever admitted to myself. But here's what I'm learning. That house isn't just a house to you. It's where you built your life with Dad. It's where you raised me. It's your security and your sanctuary. By trying to take it from you, I was trying to take everything that mattered to you. I was trying to erase your life to build mine. I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I became that person. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But I want you to know that I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be better, trying to be the daughter you deserve to have. I love you, Mom. I know I have a terrible way of showing it, but I do love you. Victoria. I read that letter 10 times. I cried every time. Because even though Victoria had hurt me terribly, she was still my daughter. And part of me would always love her, no matter what she'd done. Diane came over the night before the plea hearing. She brought wine and takeout Chinese food, and we sat in my kitchen eating and talking. "Are you ready for tomorrow?" she asked. "I don't know. What if Victoria changes her mind? What if she gets in front of the judge and decides she can't testify against Marcus?" "Then she goes to prison," Diane said simply. "But Margaret, I don't think that's going to happen. That letter she wrote you, that was real. I could feel it. She's finally understanding what she did." "But what if she doesn't follow through? What if she stops paying me back, or violates her probation, or goes back to Marcus?" "Then she faces the consequences. But you can't control what Victoria does. You can only control what you do. And you've done everything right. You stood up for yourself. You held her accountable. You gave her a chance to make things right. The rest is up to her." I wished I had Diane's certainty, but all I had was hope, and fear, and a strange mix of love and anger that I didn't quite know what to do with. The courthouse was crowded the next morning. I arrived early and sat on a bench outside the courtroom, watching people walk by, lawyers with briefcases, defendants looking nervous, family members looking worried. I wondered how many of them were dealing with situations like mine. How many had been betrayed by people they loved. Victoria arrived with Mr. Patterson. She was wearing the same blue dress from our meeting. She saw me and hesitated, like she wanted to come talk to me. But Mr. Patterson shook his head and guided her into the courtroom. I followed them in and took a seat in the front row. Diana was already there, organizing her papers. Marcus was there too, sitting on the other side of the room with his own lawyer. When he saw me, he smiled, a cold, cruel smile that made my skin crawl. That man had manipulated my daughter. He'd used her to steal from me. He'd sent her to commit crimes while he stayed clean. And he thought he was going to get away with it. Not if I could help it. The judge entered, a different judge from the property case. This one was younger, maybe in her 40s, with kind eyes. "All rise for the Honorable Judge Patricia Williams," the bailiff announced. We all stood, then sat again when the judge did. "We're here for the plea hearing in the case of the state versus Victoria Chen," Judge Williams said. "Miss Chen, please stand." Victoria stood, her legs shaking so badly I could see them trembling from where I sat. "Miss Chen, you're here to enter a plea of guilty to charges of identity theft, fraud, forgery, and conspiracy. Is that correct?" "Yes, Your Honor," Victoria said, her voice barely audible. "Speak up, please." "Yes, Your Honor," she said louder. "And you understand that by pleading guilty, you're admitting that you committed these crimes?" "Yes, Your Honor." "You understand that you're giving up your right to a trial?" "Yes, Your Honor." "And you understand the terms of the plea agreement: 5 years probation, 500 hours community service, full restitution to the victim, and testimony against Marcus Stevens?" "Yes, Your Honor." Judge Williams looked at Victoria over her reading glasses. "Miss Chen, I need to hear from you, in your own words, what you did and why. I need to know that you understand the gravity of your actions." Victoria took a shaky breath. This was the moment. This was where she had to be honest. "Your Honor," she began, "I stole from my mother. I forged her signature on loan documents and took $200,000 that didn't belong to me. I did it because my boyfriend, Marcus Stevens, convinced me that it was a good investment opportunity. He said we could use the money to buy rental properties and build wealth. He made it sound like we were being smart and ambitious." She paused, tears starting to stream down her face. "But the truth is, I knew it was wrong. Deep down, I knew. I just didn't want to admit it to myself. I wanted the money. I wanted the success. I wanted to be somebody important, and I was willing to hurt my own mother to get those things." Judge Williams leaned forward. "Go on." "My mother raised me by herself after my father died," Victoria continued. "She worked 2 jobs to put me through college. She never asked me for anything. She never demanded that I take care of her or pay her back. She just loved me and supported me and wanted me to be happy." Victoria's voice broke. "And I repaid her by trying to steal her house. The house where she raised me, the house that's her only security. I repaid her love with betrayal. The courtroom was completely silent, except for Victoria's crying. Your Honor, I can't undo what I've done. I can't give my mother back the months of fear and stress I put her through. I can't give her back the trust I destroyed. But I can spend the rest of my life trying to make it right. I can pay her back every penny, no matter how long it takes. I can tell the truth about Marcus and how he manipulates people. And I can work every day to become a better person, the kind of daughter my mother deserved to have in the first place. Judge Williams was quiet for a long moment, studying Victoria's face. Miss Chen, do you love your mother? Yes, Your Honor, I do. I know it doesn't look like it, but I do. Then why did you hurt her? Victoria wiped her face with a tissue. Because I was selfish. Because I put my own wants above her needs. Because I was weak and let Marcus manipulate me into thinking that what we were doing was okay. But mostly, because I was too proud to admit that I needed help. I wanted to prove I could be successful on my own, and instead, I proved that I'm capable of terrible things. Judge Williams nodded slowly. Then she turned to me. Mrs. Chen, would you like to say anything? I stood up, my heart pounding. I hadn't prepared a speech. I didn't know what I was going to say until the words came out. Your Honor, Victoria is my only child. She's all I have left of my husband, who died 10 years ago. For a long time, she was the center of my world. Everything I did for her. I looked at Victoria. She was staring at me with red, swollen eyes. What she did to me broke my heart, I continued. She didn't just steal money from me. She stole my trust. She stole my sense of safety. She made me afraid in my own home. She made me question whether I'd failed as a mother. Victoria let out a sob. But here's what I've learned through all of this, I said. I can't control Victoria's choices. I can only control mine. And I choose to give her another chance. Not because what she did was okay. It wasn't. Not because I've forgotten what happened. I haven't. But because she's my daughter, and I believe people can change if they really want to. I paused, gathering my thoughts. Your Honor, I support the plea deal. I want Victoria to have the chance to rebuild her life. But I also want her to understand that actions have consequences. She needs to pay back every penny she took from me. She needs to testify truthfully against Marcus. And she needs to prove, through her actions, that she's really changed. Words are easy. Actions are hard. I need to see the actions. Judge Williams smiled slightly. Thank you, Mrs. Chen. You may sit down. She turned back to Victoria. Miss Chen, you have a very forgiving mother. Not every parent would give their child a second chance after what you've done. I hope you understand how lucky you are. I do, Your Honor, Victoria said. Then here's what's going to happen. I'm accepting your guilty plea. You'll be sentenced to 5 years probation. You'll complete 500 hours of community service. You'll pay full restitution to your mother on a payment plan to be determined by the court. I'm setting it at $500 per month until the debt is paid in full, with interest. Victoria nodded, tears still streaming down her face. You'll also testify fully and completely against Marcus Stevens, Judge Williams continued. If you fail to do so, if you lie or hold back information, this deal is void, and you'll go to prison for the maximum sentence. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor. And Miss Chen, let me be very clear about something. This is your one chance, your only chance. If you violate your probation in any way, if you miss a payment, if you fail to complete your community service, if you get in any legal trouble at all, you will go to prison. I don't care if it's a parking ticket or a major crime. You will go to prison. Do you understand me? Yes, Your Honor, I understand. Good, then I'm accepting your plea. Bailiff, please process the paperwork. Judge Williams banged her gavel, and it was done. Victoria turned to look at me. Our eyes met across the courtroom. She mouthed 2 words, "Thank you." I nodded but didn't smile. We had a long way to go before things would be okay between us, but at least now we had a chance. Marcus's trial was scheduled for 6 weeks later. During that time, Victoria was interviewed multiple times by the police and the prosecutor's office. She told them everything, how Marcus had planned the fraud, how he'd coached her on forging my signature, how he'd promised they'd be rich and successful together. She also told them about Marcus's other victims. Rachel had been right. There were at least 5 other women he'd manipulated into committing property fraud over the past 8 years. Some had gone to prison. Some had lost everything. Marcus had always walked away clean. Until now. The day of Marcus's trial, the courtroom was packed. All 5 of his other victims were there, ready to testify. Victoria was the star witness, the one who could tie everything together and show Marcus's pattern of manipulation and fraud. I sat in the front row again, watching as Marcus entered the courtroom. He didn't look worried. He looked confident, almost smug. He thought he was going to win. He was wrong. Victoria took the stand, dressed professionally in a simple gray suit. She looked older somehow, more mature. The past few weeks had changed her. Diana Torres approached her. "Miss Chen, can you tell the court how you met Marcus Stevens?" "We met at a networking event for young professionals," Victoria said, her voice steady. "He was charming and successful and interested in me. We started dating, and within a few months he was talking about our future together, buying properties, building wealth, starting businesses." "And when did he first mention defrauding your mother?" "About 6 months into our relationship. He asked about my family, about my mother's house. I told him she owned it outright, that it was paid off. His eyes lit up and he said, 'That's a lot of equity just sitting there doing nothing.'" "What happened next?" "He started suggesting that we could use that equity to invest in rental properties. At first, he made it sound legitimate, like maybe Mom would agree to a home equity loan to help us get started. But when I said she'd never agree to that, he started talking about other options." "What other options?" Victoria took a deep breath. "He said we could take out a loan in her name without her knowing. He said it wasn't really stealing because the house would go to me eventually anyway, so we were just accessing my inheritance early." "And did you believe that?" "I wanted to believe it. Marcus was very convincing. He made it sound like we were being smart and proactive, not criminal. But yes, deep down, I knew it was wrong. I just didn't want to admit it." Diana nodded. "Miss Chen, can you tell the court who actually created the fraudulent loan documents?" "Marcus did. He had all the forms. He'd clearly done this before. He knew exactly what documents were needed, how to make them look legitimate, what information to include. All I had to do was sign my mother's name." "And did Marcus coach you on how to forge her signature?" "Yes, he had me practice on scratch paper first, copying her signature from old birthday cards I had. He coached me until I could do it perfectly. Then he had me sign the actual loan documents." The testimony went on for hours. Victoria explained everything: the fake bank account, the property purchases, the plan to eventually force me out of my house once they owned it through the fraudulent loan. She was calm and detailed and honest. Marcus's lawyer tried to break her testimony, tried to suggest she was lying to save herself. But Victoria didn't waver. "I'm not lying," she said firmly. "I did terrible things and I'm taking responsibility for them. But Marcus planned all of it. He's done it before. And if he's not stopped, he'll do it again to someone else's mother or grandmother or sister." When the other victims testified, the pattern became clear. Marcus would date women who had access to family members' money or property. He'd manipulate them into committing fraud. Then, when things got risky, he'd break up with them and disappear, leaving them to face the legal consequences alone. He was a predator, a con artist, a man who used love and trust as weapons. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Marcus's face went white when he heard the verdict. He looked around the courtroom wildly, like he was searching for an escape route, but there was none. Judge Williams sentenced him to 15 years in prison, with no possibility of parole for the first 10 years. "Mr. Stevens," she said, her voice hard, "you are a manipulator and a thief. You've destroyed lives, broken families, and shown no remorse for any of it. You saw vulnerable people as opportunities for profit. You used love as a tool for exploitation. You are exactly the kind of criminal that this court system exists to stop." Marcus tried to speak, but his lawyer shushed him. "Take him away," Judge Williams said. As the bailiffs led Marcus out of the courtroom in handcuffs, he looked at Victoria one last time. His face was full of rage. "You'll regret this," he shouted. "You'll regret betraying me." But Victoria didn't flinch. She just watched him go, her face calm. After the trial, Victoria and I stood outside the courthouse together. It was the first time we'd been alone since all of this started. "Mom," she said quietly, "thank you for giving me another chance, for not giving up on me completely." "I'm your mother," I said. "That's what mothers do." Not all mothers. Some mothers would have washed their hands of me after what I did. "Well, I'm not some mothers, I'm your mother. And yes, you hurt me. Badly. But I still love you, Victoria, I always will." She started crying then, and this time I did reach out. I pulled her into a hug, and she sobbed against my shoulder like she used to when she was little and the world felt too big and scary. "I'm so sorry, Mom," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." "I know," I said. "I know you are." We stood there for a long time, holding each other, while people walked past us on their way into and out of the courthouse. Two women who'd been through hell and come out the other side, damaged, but not broken. "Victoria," I said finally, "you need to understand something. I'm giving you another chance, but trust has to be earned. It's going to take time, maybe years, maybe forever. You can't just say you're sorry and expect everything to go back to the way it was." "I know," she said. "I don't expect that, I want to try, I want to be better, I want to be the daughter you deserve." "Then prove it," I said. "Not with words, with actions. Show me that you've changed. Show me that you understand what you did wrong and why it was wrong. Show me that I can trust you again." "I will," she promised. "I swear I will." I wanted to believe her. I really did. Only time would tell if Victoria's promise was real. We're almost at the end of this incredible journey. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. Hit the notification bell and drop a comment and tell me, do you think Margaret made the right choice? Can Victoria really change? And where are you watching from? Let me know. 6 months passed after Marcus's trial. 6 months of watching and waiting and wondering if Victoria would really follow through on her promises. The first month was the hardest. Victoria had to find a new job because her old company had fired her when they found out about the criminal charges. She ended up working at a coffee shop, making minimum wage, serving drinks to people who used to be her peers. I know it was humbling for her. She'd had a successful career in technology, making good money, wearing nice clothes, going to fancy restaurants. Now she was wearing an apron and cleaning tables and taking orders from customers who sometimes treated her rudely. But she didn't complain, not once. She sent me her first payment on the first day of the month, $500, exactly as the court had ordered. She included a note, "First payment of many, I won't let you down." The second month, another $500 arrived, and the third month, and the fourth. She also started her community service, working at a homeless shelter 3 nights a week. She served food, cleaned the facility, and talked with people who had nowhere else to go. One evening, about 3 months after the trial, I decided to visit her at the shelter. I wanted to see if she was really doing the work or just checking a box to satisfy the court. I arrived at dinner time and stood in the doorway, watching. Victoria was behind the serving counter, ladling soup into bowls for a long line of people. She smiled at each person, asked them how they were doing, called many of them by name. A young woman came through the line with 2 small children. The little boy, maybe 4 years old, was crying. "What's wrong, sweetie?" Victoria asked gently. "He's scared," the mother said tiredly. "We've never been here before, we just lost our apartment." Victoria came around the counter and knelt down so she was at the little boy's eye level. "I know this place seems scary," she said softly, "but everyone here is nice, and the soup is really good. Do you like crackers? We have lots of crackers." The little boy nodded, wiping his eyes. Victoria got him a bowl of soup with extra crackers and carried his tray to a table for him. She even sat with the family for a few minutes, making the children laugh with silly faces. I felt tears in my eyes watching her. This was my Victoria, the real one, the kind one, the one who cared about people. She looked up and saw me standing there. Her face went pale. "Mom," she said, walking over quickly, "what are you doing here?" "I wanted to see how you were doing," I said. I'm doing okay. This is my community service. I work here 3 nights a week." "I can see that. You're good with those children." Victoria smiled sadly. "They remind me of me when I was little, before everything got complicated, when the world was simple and all that mattered was soup and crackers." We stood there awkwardly for a moment. We still didn't know how to talk to each other. 6 months wasn't long enough to heal what had been broken. Would you like to stay for dinner?" Victoria asked hesitantly. "The soup really is good." I almost said no. I almost made an excuse and left, but something stopped me. "Okay," I said, "I'll stay." We sat together at one of the long tables, eating soup and bread, surrounded by people who had lost everything. People who were struggling. People who were trying to rebuild their lives. People like Victoria. "Mom," Victoria said quietly, "I know I still have a long way to go. I know you don't trust me yet, but I want you to know that I think about what I did every single day. Every time I see someone struggling, I think about how I tried to take away your security, your home, how I could have left you with nothing." She looked at the family with the 2 children. "That could have been you. If I'd succeeded in stealing your house, if you'd lost everything. That could have been you in a shelter somewhere, scared and alone." "But it wasn't," I said, "because I fought back, and you're here now making better choices." "I'm trying," she said. "Every day I'm trying." Month 4 brought a surprise. Victoria showed up at my house on a Saturday morning, her first visit since before the trial. She texted me first to ask if it was okay, if she was allowed to come, if I wanted to see her. I'd said yes, though my stomach was in knots all morning wondering what she wanted. When I opened the door, she was standing there with a bag of groceries and a nervous smile. "Hi, Mom," she said. I was wondering if maybe I could help you plant your garden this year, like I used to when I was little." My garden, the one Marcus had destroyed. I'd replanted some of it, but I hadn't had the heart to do it all. It reminded me too much of everything that had happened. "You want to help me garden?" I asked. "If you'll let me. I know I don't deserve to, but I was thinking about all the times we used to plant together, and I thought maybe we could start over with something small, something that grows." I looked at her standing there with dirt under her fingernails, probably from the coffee shop or the shelter, wearing old jeans and a t-shirt instead of her fancy clothes. She looked like my daughter again. "Okay," I said, "let's plant." We spent the whole day in the garden together. Victoria dug holes while I placed the seeds. We planted tomatoes and peppers and zucchini and herbs. We worked mostly in silence, but it was a comfortable silence. The kind of silence that happens between people who know each other well and don't need to fill every moment with words. At one point, Victoria sat back on her heels, wiping sweat from her forehead. "I forgot how much work this is," she said. "Everything worth having takes work," I said. She looked at me, understanding the deeper meaning. "You're right, and I'm willing to do the work, Mom, however long it takes." We finished planting as the sun was setting. My garden looked alive again, full of potential and possibility. Victoria packed up her tools and got ready to leave. At the door, she turned back. "Mom, would it be okay if I came back next week to water the plants?" I thought about it. Having Victoria back in my life, even a little bit, felt risky. What if she hurt me again? What if this was all an act? But then I thought about what Diane had said months ago. You can't control what Victoria does. You can only control what you do. I could choose to stay afraid forever, or I could choose to give her a chance to prove herself. "Yes," I said, "you can come back next week." Victoria's face lit up with a smile, a real smile, the kind I hadn't seen in years. "Thank you, Mom, I won't let you down." Month 5 brought more changes. Victoria got promoted at the coffee shop to shift supervisor. It wasn't much, just $1 more per hour, but she was proud of it. She called me to tell me the news, her voice excited like a child's. "It's not a fancy tech job," she said. But it's honest work, and my boss says I'm good at it. She says I'm reliable and kind to customers and good at managing the other employees. That's wonderful, Victoria, I said, and I meant it. I'm saving up, she continued. After I pay you each month and pay my rent and bills, I save whatever is left over. I have almost $800 saved now. I'm thinking maybe eventually I can go back to school, get certified in something, start a real career again. What would you study? I asked. I don't know yet, maybe social work. After working at the shelter, I've been thinking about how many people need help. Real help, not just soup and a bed. I think maybe I could be good at that. Social work. My daughter, who'd been so obsessed with money and success, now wanted to help people. I think you would be good at that, I said. You're good with people when you let yourself be. I learned from the best, Victoria said softly. You were always helping people, Mom. You helped our neighbors, you volunteered at church, you were always the first person to bring food when someone was sick. I forgot that for a while, but I'm remembering now. After we hung up, I sat in my kitchen with tears in my eyes. These were different tears than the ones I'd cried 6 months ago. These were tears of hope. Month 6 brought the biggest surprise of all. It was a Thursday evening, and I was making dinner when my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Victoria standing there with a man I didn't recognize. He was probably in his 60s, with gray hair and a kind face. Mom, Victoria said, this is Dr. Martinez, my therapist. I asked if he would be willing to come with me to talk to you. There's something I need to say, and I wanted him here as a witness. I invited them in, confused and a little nervous. What was this about? We sat in my living room, me on the couch, Victoria and Dr. Martinez in the chairs. Mrs. Chen, Dr. Martinez said, Victoria has been in therapy with me for 6 months now. She's been working very hard to understand why she made the choices she made and how to ensure she never makes them again. I nodded, not sure where this was going. Victoria leaned forward, her hands clasped tightly together. Mom, I've been learning a lot about myself in therapy, about why I was so vulnerable to Marcus's manipulation, about why I made such terrible choices. She took a deep breath. Dr. Martinez has helped me see that I've spent most of my life feeling like I wasn't good enough, like I had to prove my worth through success and money and achievement. When Dad died, I felt like I had to be perfect to make up for losing him, to make you proud, to show that I was worth all the sacrifices you made. Victoria, I interrupted, I was always proud of you, even when you weren't perfect. I know that now, she said, tears starting to fall. But I didn't know it then. I thought love had to be earned. I thought if I wasn't successful enough, rich enough, impressive enough, you wouldn't love me anymore. That's not how love works, I said softly. I know, but that's what I believed. And that's what made me vulnerable to Marcus. He promised me success and wealth and importance. He made me feel like I could finally be someone worthy of love. Victoria wiped her tears. But here's what I understand now. I was always worthy of love. I didn't have to earn it. And by trying so hard to prove myself, I lost sight of what really mattered: being a good person, being honest, being kind, taking care of the people who took care of me. She looked at me with red, swollen eyes. Mom, I can't undo what I did. I took $200,000 from you. That's going to take me years to pay back, probably 20 years at the rate I'm paying. I tried to steal your home. I sent someone to terrorize you. Those are facts. They happened. And no amount of therapy or apologies can change them. Victoria, please let me finish, she said. I need to say this. Dr. Martinez is here as my witness that I'm saying this of my own free will, with full understanding of what it means. She reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. Mom, I've written something for you. It's not a legal document, it's just a letter. But I want you to have it, and I want Dr. Martinez to confirm that I wrote it voluntarily. She handed me the envelope. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter on official-looking paper. As I read it, my eyes widened. I, Victoria Chen, acknowledge that I committed fraud against my mother, Margaret Chen. I stole $200,000 from her through identity theft and forgery. This was entirely my choice and my responsibility. While Marcus Stevens planned and encouraged these crimes, I am the one who committed them. I am the one who forged my mother's signature. I am the one who took the money. I acknowledge that my mother would be within her rights to never speak to me again. I acknowledge that I destroyed her trust and her sense of security. I acknowledge that I am deeply, profoundly sorry for what I have done. I promise to repay every penny I stole, plus interest, even if it takes the rest of my life. I promise to continue therapy to ensure I never hurt anyone this way again. I promise to live my life in a way that honors my mother's forgiveness and kindness. If I fail to make payments, if I violate my probation, if I betray my mother's trust in any way, I give her permission to pursue any and all legal remedies against me. I will not fight her. I will not make excuses. I will accept full responsibility. This letter is my promise to my mother and to myself. I will be better. I will do better for the rest of my life. Signed, Victoria Chen. Below her signature was Dr. Martinez's signature, dated that day. With a note, I witnessed Victoria Chen write and sign this letter of her own free will, in a sound state of mind, with full understanding of its contents. I looked up at Victoria, tears streaming down my face. Victoria, why did you write this? Because I needed you to know that I mean it, she said. Words are easy to say and easy to forget, but putting it in writing, having Dr. Martinez witness it, that makes it real. That makes it permanent. I want you to know that I'm not just saying I'm sorry, I'm proving it. And I'm going to keep proving it for the rest of my life. I folded the letter carefully and held it against my chest. Victoria, I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, she said. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not even asking if we can go back to the way things were. I know we can't. Too much has happened. But I'm asking if maybe we can build something new, something better, something based on honesty and respect instead of just obligation. Dr. Martinez spoke up. Mrs. Chen, in my professional opinion, Victoria has done significant work to understand her behavior and change her patterns of thinking. She's not the same person who committed those crimes 6 months ago. That doesn't excuse what she did, but it does mean that she's genuinely trying to become better. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. The expensive clothes were gone. The arrogance was gone. The entitlement was gone. What was left was a woman who'd hit rock bottom and was slowly, painfully, climbing back up. Victoria, I said slowly, I can't promise that I trust you completely. Not yet. Trust takes time to rebuild. Her face fell slightly. But, I continued, I can see that you're trying, really trying, and I appreciate this letter more than you know. It means something that you're willing to put your promises in writing. Does that mean? Victoria's voice was hopeful. It means we keep going the way we've been going, I said. You keep making your payments. You keep coming to help with the garden. You keep working hard and living honestly. And over time, we'll see what we can rebuild. That's all I'm asking for, Victoria said, fresh tears streaming down her face. Just a chance. Then you have it, I said. Victoria stood up and took a step toward me, then stopped, unsure if a hug would be welcome. I stood up too and opened my arms. She fell into them, sobbing. Thank you, Mom, she whispered. Thank you for not giving up on me. You're my daughter, I said, holding her tight. I will never give up on you, even when you make it really, really hard. She laughed through her tears. I know I did, and I'm so sorry. We stood there holding each other while Dr. Martinez watched with a small smile. It wasn't a happy ending yet. We still had years of work ahead of us, but it was a beginning, a new beginning. 3 months later, 9 months after the trial, I got an unexpected phone call. Mrs. Chen, this is Detective Roberts. My heart jumped. Is everything okay? Did something happen with Victoria? No, nothing like that. Actually, I'm calling with good news. You remember how Victoria's testimony helped convict Marcus Stevens? Yes, of course. Well, her testimony also helped us build cases against 4 other men who were running similar property fraud schemes. We've arrested all of them. Between them, they've defrauded over 50 people out of millions of dollars. That's incredible. It gets better. We've been able to recover some of the stolen money and property. It's not everything, but it's something. And because Victoria's testimony was so crucial to these cases, the district attorney wants to acknowledge her cooperation. What does that mean? It means they're recommending that her probation be reduced from 5 years to 3 years if she continues to meet all the conditions. It's not a pardon. She still has to pay you back, still has to complete her community service. But it means she won't be under court supervision for as long. After I hung up, I called Victoria immediately to tell her. Really, she said, her voice filled with disbelief. They're reducing my probation. Yes, because you helped stop other people from being hurt. You made a real difference, Victoria. She was quiet for a moment. Mom, I don't feel like I deserve any credit. I was one of the people hurting others. I was part of the problem. But now you're part of the solution, I said. That matters too. A year after the trial, exactly 1 year, Victoria came to visit me on a Sunday afternoon. She'd become a regular visitor by then, coming over most weekends to help with the garden or just to have tea and talk. We were sitting on my back porch, watching the tomatoes grow, when she turned to me. Mom, I have something to tell you. My stomach clenched. Those words never meant anything good. What is it? I got accepted into a social work program at the community college. It's a 2-year program. Classes are at night, so I can keep working during the day. I felt a wave of relief and pride. Victoria, that's wonderful. There's more. The program costs $15,000. I've saved $5,000 so far. I was thinking about taking out a student loan for the rest. She paused, looking nervous. But then I realized, I'm still paying you back. I owe you $194,000 still. If I take out a student loan, I'll have even more debt. It will take even longer to pay you back. Victoria. So I've been thinking, maybe I should wait, work another year or two, save more money, and then start school. That way I can keep paying you and not add more debt. I looked at my daughter. She was willing to delay her dreams to make things right with me. That meant everything. Victoria, I said slowly, how much have you paid me so far? $6,000. I've been paying $500 every month for 12 months, plus I gave you an extra $1,000 from my tax refund. And you've never missed a payment. Never. I'd rather skip meals than miss a payment to you. And you've completed how much of your community service? About 200 hours so far. I have 300 more to go. I thought about everything Victoria had done in the past year. The payments, the community service, the therapy, the honest work at the coffee shop, the help with my garden, the letter she'd written, the testimony that had helped put Marcus and others in prison. She'd spent a year proving she'd changed, and she had changed. I could see it in everything she did. Victoria, I said, I want you to enroll in that social work program. But Mom, the payments. I'm reducing your payments, I said. From $500 a month to $200 a month while you're in school. You'll still be paying me back. It will just take longer. But your education is important. Building a career that fulfills you is important. And I believe that you becoming a social worker will help more people than punishing yourself with impossible debt. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. Mom, I can't ask you to. You're not asking, I'm offering. Victoria, you've spent the last year showing me that you've really changed. You've proven that you're committed to making things right. And I believe you. I trust you again. You trust me. Her voice was barely a whisper. Yes, I said. And as I said it, I realized it was true. Somewhere over the past year, trust had crept back in. Not all at once, but slowly, like a plant growing in the garden. You've earned it. Victoria broke down crying. She put her head in her hands and sobbed, great, heaving sobs that shook her whole body. I moved closer and put my arm around her. It's okay, sweetheart, it's okay. I thought you'd hate me forever, she said through her tears. I thought I destroyed us completely. You hurt me, I said honestly. You hurt me more than anyone ever has. But you also did the hardest thing anyone can do. You admitted you were wrong and you changed. That takes real courage, Victoria. I'm proud of you. You're proud of me? She looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. After everything I did. I'm proud of who you're becoming. The woman who works at the shelter and helps scared children. The woman who sends money every month even when she can barely afford it. The woman who's willing to delay her dreams to make things right. That woman, the real you, that woman makes me proud. We sat there on the porch holding each other while the sun set behind the trees and the garden grew in the fading light. 2 years after the trial, Victoria graduated from the social work program. I was there in the audience, cheering louder than anyone when she walked across the stage to get her certificate. She'd done it. She'd worked full-time, gone to school at night, kept up with her community service, and never missed a single payment to me. After the ceremony, she introduced me to her professors and classmates. "This is my mom," she said, her arm around my shoulders. "She's my hero. She's the strongest person I know." One of her professors, a kind older woman, smiled at me. "Victoria talks about you all the time. She says you saved her life." "She saved her own life," I said. "I just gave her the chance to do it." Victoria got a job at a nonprofit organization that helped families facing eviction and foreclosure. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. She was now helping people keep their homes after she'd tried to take mine. "I think about that every day," she told me. "Every time I help a family stay in their house, I think about how I almost made you homeless. It motivates me to work harder to do better." 5 years after the trial, Victoria finished her probation. We went to court together for her final hearing, the hearing where the judge would officially release her from supervision. Judge Williams was still on the bench. She looked at Victoria's file, then looked at Victoria. "Miss Chen, it says here that you've completed all 500 hours of community service. Is that correct?" "Yes, Your Honor. I actually completed 650 hours. I kept volunteering at the shelter even after I'd met my requirement." "And you've made all your payments to your mother?" "Yes, Your Honor. I've paid $19,000 so far. I still owe $181,000, but I've never missed a payment." Judge Williams nodded. "And you've had no legal troubles? No arrests, no violations?" "No, Your Honor. I've stayed out of trouble completely." "What are you doing for work now?" "I'm a social worker at Hometown Family Services. I help families who are facing eviction or foreclosure. I help them understand their rights, access resources, and keep their homes." Judge Williams smiled slightly. "That's quite a change from someone who tried to take her mother's home." "Yes, Your Honor," Victoria said quietly. "I learned the hard way how important a home is. Now I get to help protect that for other people." Judge Williams looked at me. "Mrs. Chen, how do you feel about your daughter's progress?" I stood up. "Your Honor, 5 years ago I stood in a different courtroom and watched my daughter try to take everything from me. Today I'm standing here watching her graduate from probation because she did the work to change. She's not the same person she was. She's better. She's kinder. She's honest. She's the daughter I always knew she could be." My voice broke slightly. "I'm proud of her, Your Honor. I'm proud to be her mother." Victoria started crying silently, tears streaming down her face. Judge Williams banged her gavel. "Victoria Chen, you have successfully completed your probation. You are hereby released from court supervision. Your probation is ended." Victoria and I hugged in the courtroom, both of us crying. "We did it, Mom," she whispered. "We really did it." "Yes," I said, "we did." Today, 7 years after the trial, Victoria and I are closer than we've ever been. She comes over every Sunday for dinner. We work in the garden together. We talk about everything, her job, her life, her dreams for the future. She's paid me back $28,000 so far. At her current rate, it will take her another 30 years to pay me back completely. But I'm okay with that. The money was never the point. The point was watching my daughter fall and then choose to get back up. The point was watching her take responsibility for her actions. The point was watching her transform from someone selfish and entitled into someone compassionate and honest. Last month, Victoria called me with exciting news. "Mom, I've been nominated for an award at work. Employee of the Year. They said I've helped more families stay in their homes than any other social worker in the organization. Victoria, that's incredible. And Mom, they asked me to give a speech at the awards ceremony. They want me to talk about why I do this work, what motivates me. What are you going to say? She was quiet for a moment. I'm going to tell them the truth, about what I did to you, about how I learned the hard way what it means to lose your home, your security, your trust in the people you love, about how you gave me a second chance when you didn't have to. You don't have to talk about that publicly, I said. It's our private story. I know I don't have to, but I want to, because maybe my story can help someone else. Maybe there's another young person out there making terrible choices, and hearing about my mistakes and my consequences will make them stop and think. Maybe there's another parent dealing with a child who's gone wrong, and hearing about your forgiveness will give them hope. I thought about that. Our pain, our struggle, our journey. What if it could help other people? Then tell them, I said. Tell them everything. At the awards ceremony, I sat in the front row as Victoria stood at the podium. She looked beautiful in a simple blue dress, not expensive, but elegant. She looked confident and calm. My name is Victoria Chen, she began, and 7 years ago I tried to steal my mother's house. The room went quiet. People shifted in their seats, unsure if they'd heard correctly. Victoria told them everything. The fraud, the forgery, the trial, the plea deal, the long road to redemption. I'm not telling you this to make you feel sorry for me, she said. I'm telling you this because I want you to understand why I work so hard for every single family that comes through our doors. I know what it's like to be on the wrong side of a housing issue. I know how easy it is to rationalize taking something that doesn't belong to you. I know how greed and entitlement can make you blind to the harm you're causing. She paused, looking at me in the audience. But I also know what it's like to have someone believe in you when you don't deserve it. My mother could have sent me to prison for 10 years. Instead, she gave me a chance to make things right. She showed me that redemption is possible, but only if you do the work. So when I help a family facing eviction, I'm not just doing a job. I'm honoring my mother's forgiveness. I'm proving that second chances matter. I'm showing that people can change if someone gives them the opportunity and they're willing to do the hard work. Victoria received a standing ovation. People were crying. Afterward, at least a dozen people came up to her to thank her for her honesty and courage. One woman, probably in her 50s, hugged Victoria and whispered, "My son stole from me last year. I've been struggling with whether to forgive him. Your story gives me hope. Thank you." Driving home that night, Victoria was quiet. "What are you thinking about?" I asked. "I'm thinking about how 7 years ago, I thought success meant money and property and impressing people. Now I know that success means helping people, being honest, and making the people who love you proud." She looked at me. "I'm thinking about how I almost lost everything that really mattered." "But you didn't," I said. "You chose a different path, and look where it's brought you." "It brought me back to you," she said softly. "That's all that really matters." Last week, Victoria came over with a small box wrapped in simple brown paper. "What's this?" I asked. "Open it," she said, smiling nervously. I unwrapped the box. Inside was a coffee mug, a simple white coffee mug with blue lettering that said, "World's Most Forgiving Mom." I looked up at her, my eyes filling with tears. "I know it's not the same as the one I bought you when I was 7, Victoria said. "That one said, 'World's Best Mom,' and I know I don't deserve to give you that one anymore. But I wanted you to have this, because you are the most forgiving person I've ever known, and I will spend the rest of my life trying to deserve that forgiveness." I pulled her into a hug, holding her tight. "You already deserve it," I whispered. "You've earned it 1,000 times over." Sometimes people ask me if I regret giving Victoria a second chance. They ask if I was foolish to trust her again after what she did. I always tell them the same thing. Love isn't about keeping score. It's not about holding grudges or demanding perfection. Love is about seeing someone at their worst and choosing to believe they can be better. Victoria betrayed me in the worst possible way. She tried to steal my home, my security, my peace of mind. She hurt me more deeply than I thought possible. But she also showed me something I'd forgotten, that people can change, that redemption is real, that even the worst mistakes don't have to define us forever. Victoria will be paying me back for decades. Every month, I receive a check from her, sometimes $200, sometimes more when she can afford it. I deposit every single one, not because I need the money, but because Victoria needs to keep making those payments. She needs the reminder of what she did and what she's overcome. But I also put aside half of each payment into a savings account that Victoria doesn't know about. When she finally makes that last payment, in 30 years or so, I'm going to give all that money back to her as a gift. A reward for finishing what she started. A way of saying, you did it. You kept your promise. I'm proud of you. My daughter wanted to walk all over me. She wanted to take everything I had and leave me with nothing. But when I stood in that courtroom alone 7 years ago, I found a strength I didn't know I had. I fought back. I held her accountable. And most importantly, I gave her a chance to become the person she was meant to be. Today, Victoria doesn't walk over me. She walks beside me, as my daughter, my friend, and my greatest reminder that love and forgiveness can heal even the deepest wounds. That's the real ending to our story. Not perfect, not without scars, but full of hope, redemption, and a love that refused to give up. And that, I've learned, is what family is really about. Thank you so much for staying with us through this incredible journey. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell for more powerful emotional stories like this one. Drop a comment below and tell us, what part of this story moved you the most? Do you think Margaret made the right choice? Have you ever had to forgive someone who deeply hurt you? Where in the world are you watching from? Your comments, likes, and subscriptions mean everything to us and help us bring you more amazing stories. Remember, everyone deserves a second chance, but only if they're willing to do the work to earn it. Forgiveness is powerful, but it must be paired with accountability. Thank you for being part of our community. Until next time, remember to treat your loved ones with kindness, hold people accountable with love, and never give up on the people who truly want to change. See you in the next story.